Try and get back. We disappear, and you say terrible things about us when we go through the door. And our excuse is to say, I have another engagement. But in this case, as I said to Robin earlier, I'm afraid I have to leave before the end of your session. But may I say from my friend Lord Hammett at the end, an old colleague of mine, many times we've shared together. On behalf of us both, welcome to the House of Lords part of the Palace of Westminster. It's a great privilege to share something with you. I am not a theorist, I'm a practitioner. Let me tell you who I am. For 40 years, I ministered as an Anglican priest, bishop, and then archbishop in Ireland. I became for 20 years the primate of all Ireland. You may know that there are two nations on the island of Ireland, Northern Ireland, which is part of the United Kingdom, and the Republic of Ireland, which is an independent state. And we've been celebrating recently the events of 1916, which produced the Republic of Ireland as a separate state, and a wonderful event it was. I find myself ministering in a situation of extreme conflict. As Robin has said, thousands lost their lives, all ages, all conditions, men, women, young, old. We had terrorism, we had paramilitary organizations, and we had civil unrest. And for some 20, 30 years, life just was not normal. And into the cauldron of that was the church, the churches. And while I speak as an Anglican and an Anglican archbishop, I am very acutely aware that you come from different faiths, different traditions. But what I want to share with you, I believe, is universal. I believe that what I have experienced in my life can apply to any of you in any situation of conflict. As you said, sir, a few minutes ago, you talked about theology and reaching out. Well, I'm the reaching out part of that formula. Let me very briefly tell you my experience, and I hope that it will be something, as I say, which you will apply in your own way to your own situation. First of all, I believe the primary move, if a member of a faith community finds themselves in a position of trying to bring an end to violence, the first primary concern is to listen. Politicians love to tell the world what's wrong with it. But I believe that I have proved over and over again the first value is to listen, to get below the surface of one side or the other and say to myself, what exactly is it they're trying to prove? What exactly is their message? What exactly is their version of the truth? Now, at times that is almost impossible. Robin kindly referred to an event in that whole process. For many years, I toiled in areas of violence, ministering to the injured, burying the dead, trying to console people. But out of the blue, the major terrorist organization did knock on my door. And they came and said to me, we believe we can trust you. Well, you can imagine my reaction after all that I'd come through. Well, I said, let's get to the bottom of what you mean when you say you can trust me. Why do you say it? Well, they said, you are a man of God. Secondly, we have proved over the years you're a man of your word. And thirdly, we believe the time has come for you to show us another way. Now you see, if I hadn't listened, if I hadn't had the God-given patience to get below the surface, I wouldn't have known what to expect from what they said would be their belief, their wish, their will. And it was amazing as we talked, and we talked for a long time, that as they talked to me, I began to treat them as an individual. And that is the second thing I want to say to you. Listen, but treat them as individuals. One person said to me in the course of the negotiation, you know, I have worries about my family. So I said, tell me about your family. Tell me why you have worries about them. And this spread throughout the entire room, and instead of talking about politics and about peace, we ended up talking about each other in the image of a God that some of them had denied. I didn't push religion to them. I didn't push my belief to them. But I tried to get them to tell me what their belief was. And as I listened, a plan formed in my mind of how we could progress their will to stop the violence. The second thing is the individual. The third thing is patience. Patience is a virtue that I don't possess. Those who know me and work with me say they know when my patience is running out. They know the weather signs and they know what to say to me to calm me down. But I have learned that the patience of the diplomat is a patience which says, if you wait and listen long enough, somebody will say something, somebody will disclose something, and you'll immediately see that's the clue, that's the key to unlock the door. And when you unlock it, God knows what will happen. So, patience. The fourth thing I would say to you is to not be afraid of walking in the paths of those who legislate. Not to be afraid to get involved in a parliamentary process. I believe, and I say this with great emphasis, you cannot legislate for reconciliation. You can pass all the laws in the world, in any parliament and in any place in the world. But you cannot pass laws which say the purpose of this law is to reconcile people. It doesn't work. What you can do, and I think Lord Hammond would agree with me, what you can do is put in place the fabric which will allow people to move to reconciliation. What we have done in Ireland is to produce a situation in which we have one phrase above all others. We are working towards a shared community, a shared society. And we're working at what that means, and it's not easy, because what I want for my community isn't necessarily what you want for my community. So I've got to listen to what you want. I've got to ask you to listen patiently to what I think is important. And then we have to find formula. We have to find laws which will allow us to meet without, and this is my sixth point, without fear. We all have fears. You have fears, I have fears. It may be over something quite small and insignificant. But on the field of reconciliation, the field of bringing nations together and people together and trying to build reconciliation, when you face that, you're into big business, you're into diplomacy, you're into negotiation. And so the path that I trod took me to number 10 Downing Street. It took me to the government of the Republic of Ireland. It took me to the United States, Washington, D.C. It has taken me all over the world and getting influence to bear on our situation. So don't be afraid, ladies and gentlemen, if you're involved in this work, of saying to those who have the power to legislate, I have a story to tell you. I have something for you to hear. And I know that you will not be able to bring your reconciliation, but you can make the fabric possible. And I proved that over and over again in my time. The fabric passed in this building produces something like the brickwork of a house. But the finishing of the house is up to individuals and people of faith and people of vision. The other side of this is the suffering. Has there ever been a time since the Second World War when Europe has faced so much division? Has there ever been a time when so many people have felt threatened? Has there ever been a time when the threat of violence and terrorism is so real? And the tragedy of it is in the second part I want to say to you, which is the mixture with violent uprising and terrorism and extreme religion. Because you cannot separate the two. I'm sorry, and I say it with a confessional tone. We have all contributed to that. We have all been unaware of how in producing our religion and our faith and our outreach, we have in fact done the opposite. We have imposed on others what our faith says, without realizing there is truth in other people's belief. The great philosopher asked the question, what is truth? Some of us spend our lives trying to work out the answer to that question. As an Anglican, as a Christian, I would say the truth that I look for is in the gospel of the Son of God. But I recognize my Muslim, my Hindu, my non-Protestant, my Catholic, I recognize in everyone there is truth. It is to unlock what that means that you take the first step to building a lasting peace. Before I bore you all to tears, can I wind this together in this way? The peacemaker is someone who faces his fears, his or her fears, and says, what is fear? Why am I afraid? Why am I afraid to step into the darkness? And what is it that frightens me? And ladies and gentlemen, and if I may say brothers and sisters, what the real fear for us all in the path of reconciliation and peace is ourselves. It's ourselves. Fear that we haven't the ability to achieve something. Fear that we'll make a mistake. Fear that we will suffer for what we're trying to do. It is ourselves we must conquer. That is where our personal faith, our personal belief, whatever it is, comes into being. The path that I have walked is not over. We are still trying to build on the peace, but we have brought an end to much of the violence. It has been brought about by prayer, it has been brought about by good people of various faiths, but it has been brought about first and foremost by those who have said, what is fear? What is trust? How can they trust me if I don't trust them? And so I make my contribution to your debate as a practitioner, as somebody who has tried all my life to bring reconciliation, and who, thank God, is living long enough to see it coming to pass. God bless you all.
God bless you.